today, I did what I have done my entire career, which is take seriously the oath that I have taken many times to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And today, America's democracy stood.
It is worth noting that the legitimacy of President Trump's first election was also challenged back in 2016 by his opponents, though not with any kind of lawlessness or any rioting. We've seen none of that this time. No fiery protests, no insinuations of Russian collusion, no threats of immediate impeachment. The decisiveness of Trump's victory might have something to do with that, but one can hope that it signals maybe a detoxification of the nation's politics. Optimistic? Sure, but that's what New Year's is all about. Everybody gets a chance to start over. Let's go to NewsNation's Joe Khalil now, live from Capitol Hill. Joe, certainly a stark contrast from 4 years ago.
And that's what really stood out today, Elizabeth, honestly, was just how ordinary it was and how quickly it all went by. In about 35 minutes, Vice President Kamala Harris oversaw the certification of her own electoral loss and of the electoral victories of both Donald Trump and J.D. Vance to become the next president and vice president of the United States. There were no objections at all. There was no drama at all. And that was really the point. When it came to Democrats, Democratic leaders in both the House and Senate, according to our reporting sources we've talked to, had instructed their members not to object at all because they wanted this to be the most stark contrast they could possibly make it between what happens today and what happened 4 years ago with the violence and the chaos that was there during the attack on the Capitol. That was the whole point, was it was ordinary and probably the most important visual element of the peaceful transfer of power in the United States, perhaps minus the actual inauguration itself. Take a listen to what we heard from senators today on both sides of the aisle.
This is how it should have been the last time. I'm glad that we're back to some kind of a level of normalcy in this regard.
That was my first day here, January the 6th, 2021, and that one was a little bit rough. There was a lot of contention after that first one, but this one, it looked like everybody had kind of conceded that, you know, this was a straightforward, fair election.
Elizabeth, there was extra security today just in case. We saw a heavier Capitol Police presence. We also saw law enforcement officers from jurisdictions outside of D.C. We saw Maryland. We saw New York police here as well. And the entire complex was fenced off, not to mention a little help from the snow that probably deterred any would-be protesters. But we didn't see anything like that at all. No planned disruption, literally no drama today. It was about as ordinary and normal as you could have hoped for.
And we like it. Joe, what can you tell us about this mega MAGA bill? What's in it, and how does Trump plan to get it passed?
Yeah, so there's this debate going on among Republicans about whether they put one bill together with several priorities in it in a process, budget reconciliation, that would allow for easier passage in the Senate, or whether they break all of their priorities up into two separate bills. That's sort of been the question. Policy differences, there really aren't that many, but it's just how you actually get there is a debate that's being had among Republican leaders. Take a listen to what Speaker Mike Johnson said just outside the House chamber today.
The two-bill strategy would allow us to put points on the board, so to speak, early in the year and handle some of the border measures statutorily, but there will be lots of executive order action on the border as well, and a lot of attention paid to that, and we will be passing border legislation here one way or the other. The question is whether we use reconciliation as the strategy to do that.
So the question about whether you put energy policy and immigration policy and tax policy all into one bill largely depends on the fact that Speaker Mike Johnson realizes it's going to be really hard to pass anything with the very slim majority he has and several of his own members willing to object to Republican leadership. So if you only get one bite at the apple, maybe you put everything in one bill and hope it passes. If not, the idea on the other side is early points on the board, as he said, with two different bills. But again, you got to hope that you go through that effort twice with this sometimes raucous Republican conference.
Yeah, go big or go home. Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.